37 practices of Bodhisattvas. In fact, this is more in line with mainly the emphasis on the bodhicitta, mainly. Then, at a certain point, you will see about emptiness, the ultimate reality as well. Yeah. Okay. And the author is very interesting. The author, his name, it should be here. No, it's not here. The author, his name is the Bodhisattva Thogmay Sangpo. Thogmay Sangpo. And the author, in fact, this author, he composed his 37 Practices of Bodhisattvas, and also he has a commentary on Shantideva's book. His commentary. I don't know whether it is available in English. It's so beautiful. So whatever is the case, this author is very special, and since childhood, he is believed to be very compassionate. In fact, at one point, he was just born in a nomadic family, where the family survived on the animal products. And then the locality was very cold, particularly in the winter. Then he, maybe around like age 3, he had his own sheepskin dress. And then he went out of his house for refreshing himself. Then he saw a spider. And then something gone into this young boy's mind. So look, this spider is very tiny. I'm big. Still I feel so cold. And I have this sheepskin dress. Still it's very cold. So the spider must be feeling so cold. And then he took off his sheepskin dress, and he put it over the spider. Then he came back naked. He was just 3 years old. Came back naked. Then the parents and the relatives, they started thinking, oh, this boy, he's very special. So he must have thrown, again given his own clothes to someone. And then they asked him, where's your clothes? And then he was not saying anything. And then someone went out and saw that it was on the bush. And then when it was taken away, they found the spider. So this is the kind of, inborn quality of compassion that he has. And then the author again, when he was like 4 or 5 years old, once he was being led by his uncle. Then that day, it was very windy. And then, because of the wind, all the leaves, they were just taken, up in the sky, carried in the sky. And the boy, looking at the leaves, started to cry. Then the uncle knew that this boy is very special, very compassionate, and why he's crying, the reason why he's crying. Because the boy couldn't figure out whether it's a bird or a leaf. And thinking that these are birds, and seeing that it is being violently taken by the wind, he is so worried and, the pained, thinking that these are the birds and birds are suffering. And then uncle would say, hey, stupid boy, why are you crying? These are not birds. These are just leaves. And then the boy would feel so happy and cool down. So this is the amount of compassion that this boy has, the author has since his childhood. And then later on he became a great retreatant, solitary retreatant. And then he came up with this wonderful text, plus the commentary on Shantideva's text. Okay, so our way of life, if, to see whether you are following the Bodhisattva's thinking pattern, or we are not following, this would be like a mirror for us to double check, if we reflect our, if we are going in line with the Bodhisattva's thinking. And then eventually, if we are in this direction, and then so that eventually we will really be a Bodhisattva ourselves. Right. Okay. So it says, Namo Lokeshwaraya. Yogeshwara is the Buddha of compassion, Avalokiteshvara, because why he is prostrating to the Buddha of compassion, Yogeshwara, is because that his whole practice is directed towards the Bodhisattva's practice, and the Bodhisattvas are the manifestation. They depict compassion. So Avalokiteshvara became he put him as the main source of admiration and blessings, and made prostrations to him. Okay, it says, you see all that phenomena neither come nor go. Still you strive solely for the benefit of beings. Supreme Guru and Protector Chenresig, to you I continually bow with body, speech and mind. Okay, so this is in fact like a synopsis of all what is going to be taught here. So the first line is how you are not to be trapped in the samsaric misperception of things as independent existent. It says that you see that all phenomena neither come nor go, saying that there is no truly existent coming, no truly existent going. So you see everything is dreamlike, right? Which means that once you realize that this very chaotic episode in a dream, when you come out of the dream, you realize that as dream, then you're chasing the object or you're running away from the object stops. Right. So it is because of this realization that everything is dreamlike. So this is what you see, what you, the Avalokiteshvara, so clearly see it. You see that all phenomena neither come nor go, which means that, the first one tells us or informs us as to how the Avalokiteshvara is free from samsara. There's no, suffering associated with samsara happening to Avalokiteshvara, because he realizes very clearly that everything is dreamlike, number one. At the same time, he doesn't stay idle, saying that seeing some being suffering, these are all dreamlike, I don't have to worry. No. So, he says, still you strive solely for the benefit of beings. Right? So, while he realizes that everything is dreamlike, he is already freed from the suffering. Now, to free the suffering of sentient beings, he delves into to help all sentient beings. Right? So, the first one, you see that all phenomena neither come nor go, is talking about the ultimate reality. And the second one, still you strive solely for the benefit of all beings, the author is talking about the conventional reality. Right. Supreme Guru, who is that? Is the Supreme Guru and Protector Chenresig. Chenresig is the Tibetan version. Chenresig is the Tibetan word for Avalokiteshvara. Protector Chenresig. Protector Chenresig. To you I continually bow with body, speech and mind. So why I said that this first stanza is more like a synopsis of all the texts following it, is because, it talks about the ultimate reality. It talks about the conventional reality. In the ultimate sense, there is nothing existent. On the conventional level, everything exists. So the Bodhisattva, Avalokiteshvara, or Chenresig, while he sees the ultimate reality, he acts in the conventional reality. Right. So, and this is the skillfulness. The arhats, they interact in the sense, they see the ultimate reality, they get stuck there. They don't come into the conventional world to help the beings. Right? Whereas some people, they try to be very compassionate and help the sentient beings, but they don't see the ultimate reality. Because they don't see the ultimate reality, there is a tendency that, for example, if your immune system is so bad, if you are physically very weak, and then if you are very compassionate, you go to the hospitals to help the sick people, then you become, sick
yourself.
Yeah, you contract, the illness yourself. So which means that there's compassionate act, but your immune system is not good. Whereas some people, they have such a strong immune system, because they're lacking compassion, they don't want to go to hospital to help others. Immune system is so good, but they can't benefit others because of lacking compassion. Only those people who have incredible compassion plus incredible immune system, they can very successfully, effectively benefit the beings in the hospitals. So like that, this is Avalokiteshvara. And how we should be doing is that we should try to build our own immune system so that the suffering and the pain of samsara doesn't, you don't contract the pain of samsara through seeing the illusion-like nature, the dream-like nature of everything. This is building your own immune system. Then at the same time, helping others, this is through compassion. So we need to cultivate both, right? So this is essence. This is essence. What we seek is happiness. Whether one is a very self-centered person, or whether you are very altruistic, very compassionate, both seek happiness. The compassionate one seeks happiness for others, and the self-centered one seeks happiness for oneself. Right? In both cases, they seek the maximum happiness. And the maximum happiness is never obtainable through self-centered attitude. If you're selfish, if you're a very selfish person and wanting the maximum happiness, you have to cherish others. This is the only way. Right? And then, while you start cherishing others, there is a danger that you will fall into samsara, that you will become sick yourself. You must build your immune system, which is the wisdom, which sees that everything is dreamlike. Right? Okay. So this is the gist. Right? So all the way down, all the stanzas down, there should be 37, actual 37 practices, along with additional stanzas, total making about like 39 or 40 stanzas. Right? So these 37 stanzas of practice, somehow they should be directly or indirectly connected to the practice of the wisdom or the practice of bodhicitta, compassion. Okay, stanza 2. The perfect Buddhas, the sources of benefit and happiness, arise from practicing the genuine dharma, which in turn depends on knowing how to practice. So I'll explain the Bodhisattva practices. So you think of the great masters like Buddha Shakyamuni, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and even Guruji. All these great masters. How they become so great? The perfect Buddhas, who are the sources of benefit and happiness for all the sentient beings. How they come into being? Have they been the first 3 stanzas of Arya Maitreya's Ornament of Clear Realization? The first 3 stanzas is the summation of the 7 years studies. The first 3 stanzas. Then these 3 stanzas, little explanation, a little bit more elaborate version of these 3 stanzas will be explained in like 8 stanzas. Okay. And then the rest of the 8 chapters will be explained on the basis of that. 8 chapters, each chapter summarized in 1 or 2 stanzas. And then all of them summarized in 3 stanzas. So beautiful. This is the style. This is the style.
They have done it then.
Since like
2000 years.
Since like 4th, 5th century.
That's about 1600 years.
Yeah. Okay. So, the perfect Buddhas, the sources of benefit and happiness, arise from practicing the genuine dharma. So what it is saying is that, the beings whom we look at as a source of blessing, whom we look at as our examples, whom we seek protection, who are perfected in their qualities. These beings were not the enlightened beings right from the beginning. They were as ordinary as we are now. And then how these ordinary beings, many eons ago, now they become enlightened. What made them enlightened? It says that They arise from practicing the genuine dharma. It is through the practice of dharma that they become what they are now, right? So in fact, this is actually telling us that if we put effort in a like manner by practicing dharma genuinely, we will also become enlightened beings. This is the encouragement given, which in turn depends on knowing how to practice. So the dharma, we should know, not only we need to know what is dharma, right? We need to know how to practice them. Okay, so I'll explain the Bodhisattva practices. Okay, practice 1. Now that you have obtained this precious human body, the great boat so difficult to find, in order to free yourself and others from the ocean of samsara, listening, reflecting, and meditating with diligence, day and night, is the practice of a Bodhisattva. So what it is saying is that, so how to become enlightened? So this enlightenment is to be done through your mind becoming more and more pure. So how to purify this mind, you should know. First, we should be able to, just as the impurities, the negative mental defilements, just as they are so active in us, the remedy to overcome this remedy must be cultivated so forcefully, so powerfully, so intensely, right? And this intensity of the remedies, intensity of the wisdom, intensity of the compassion, they will happen to us not just through meditating compassion or wisdom just once. It is through familiarization. This familiarization in virtuous meditation, virtuous mental states is known as meditation. So that needs to be achieved. Your purification of your mind can be achieved through meditation. And to be able to meditate soundly, you need to discern. You need to know exactly. You need to have the conviction that this is what purifies my mind. So the conviction in the wisdom, conviction in compassion must be there. To gain conviction, you must learn from others first. You learn from others, and then you will reflect on it, then you will gain conviction. Then whatever conviction that you gain, then you meditate on it. So it is on these 3 ways: learning from others, then reflecting to gain conviction, then meditating on the conviction that you gained will actually help to purify your mind. So this is how we purify mind and then become enlightened ourselves. Right. So it says that listening, reflecting, and meditating with diligence, day and night, is the practice of a bodhisattva. So our job is to be, somehow we should be connected. Our daily life somehow must be connected with learning, reflecting, and meditating on the path to purify ourselves. For example, in ashram, right? Say when people come, being compassionate towards others, and then sharing them about the Guruji's teachings, how to be open-minded, how one's thinking, how one's life should be grounded in compassion. So even these advice that you give, sharing with others, this is a part of, your gaining conviction within yourself. This is a part of meditation within yourself, right? And then likewise, as the Ramakrishna Mission Swamiji said, right? We should make sure that you give a time, while you allocate a time for the ashram, you must also allocate a time for one's own spiritual growth. This is what is, said here. Listening, reflecting, and meditating with diligence day and night is the practice of a bodhisattva. And the way he puts it, it's very concise and very easily understandable, and yet very profound. Okay. Then, exactly. This is it. Yeah. Second practice. Passion towards friends churns like water. Hatred towards enemies burns like fire. Through the darkness of ignorance, one forgets what to adopt and what to reject. To abandon one's homeland is the practice of a bodhisattva. So what it is saying here is that is, what really defiles our mind is the negative mental states, or we call it klesha. And this klesha, it is broadly can be grouped into three: attachment, anger, and ignorance. Right. And then he's describing these three poisonous negative emotions. He's saying that passion towards friends churns like water. This is attachment. Attachment towards one's very close ones. So if there's water, what happens? Water simply flows. It doesn't say that, I get stuck here. No, it simply flows wherever there is passage. So when it comes to attachment, then it simply pulls you towards the object, wherever the object carries you. Right. So passion towards friends churns like water. Hatred towards enemies burns like fire. And the hatred, the second one is the anger. Then, we are dominated by anger. So, say, this is the group to which I feel so, close to. This is a group I don't like because this group harms me. So then you have anger. And this anger, it really, when the anger arises in you, the hatred arises in you, it is really like fire. It burns yourself, right? Okay. Then, through the darkness of ignorance. Third one is the ignorance. So, ignorance is like darkness. In darkness, you don't see anything, You don't see what is medicine, what is poison. You don't see that in darkness. So, through the darkness of ignorance, one forgets what to adopt and what to reject. So, medicine is to be taken and the poison is to be discarded. But in the darkness, you don't identify what is medicine, what is poison, right? So, likewise, with this darkness of ignorance, you forget the virtuous things to be adopted and the non-meritorious or the negative actions to be abandoned. So this is the flaw of the ignorance, right? Okay. To abandon one's homeland. Now, all these three things, attachment, anger, and the ignorance. So these three, they are most frequently occurring in us when you are in a place in your hometown. Yeah. Because in your hometown, you already have your family. And the family already had the forefathers, foreparents.
Your roots are there.
Your roots are there.
Attachment is over generations.
Exactly, And the generation-wise, you have, this family, they killed our grandfather, so we have
enmity.
Yeah, enmity. And this is our, home friend, family friend, so like that, and that family is not good, and so like that. So we see that, in your homeland, the place where you and your descendants, they are for such a long time, this is the place where you are frequented with all these negative emotions arising.
1200, he has foreseen Tibet's 20th century situation.
Absolutely, yeah. So then, but, we need to keep in mind that, so it says that to abandon one's homeland is a practice of Bodhisattva. It doesn't mean that you have to abandon your homeland and don't go elsewhere. It doesn't mean that, right? So what it is saying is that you abandon that place which gives rise in you attachment, anger, and ignorance the most. Right, this is the point. Whereas in some cases, there could be exception cases. There could be exception cases where, where you are in your homeland and you can benefit so many people. For example, the ashram, running the school, so many children are benefited. So this is not really the point here being made, What it is saying is that
Bodhisattva belongs to the entire world.
Exactly, yeah.
It is not fixed to one place.
Absolutely,
That is the meaning.
So the angle to look at it is that the Bodhisattvas, they are to undermine the three poisonous thinking, And these three poisonous thinking, generally speaking, they arise the most when you are in your hometown. So it doesn't matter. So wherever these three negative emotions arise the most, go away from that place. This is the message. Right, okay. Again, second practice, and it's very true. Say for example, many of the great saints, most of the great saints, what they do is that, when it comes to their mind to follow through a very intense spiritual path, then they leave their home. And then they go to some other place where they are unknown by others. The others, they see this person as just, good for anything. Nothing, not good for anything. Or anyone else. Right? For example, there is one great master by the name Zapatu, and whose text you must read. It's so beautiful. Gyalsay Laglen Sodhuen. There is one title in English. It is already available in English. The print is available. Gyalsay Laglen Sodhuen. The words of my perfect Lama. The words of my perfect Lama. This is the English translation of that text. The author of that text, words of my perfect Lama, is Zapatu Rinpoche. He's the author. And he was so famous, so popular as a great saint that, wherever he sits for like a few days, he attracts so many people. And then people come to, receive blessings and, make offerings. Then he would leave. Leaving all the offerings here, he would run away to another place. And then at one point he was looking for, doing some very intense spiritual practice. And then seeing that so many people, they come, and then he becomes so popular, and he didn't like to become so popular. Then he ran away, and all his students, they were wondering where he was lost. And then finally, he ended up in one family. And in the family, the house mother, she didn't know who this man is. And this Zapatu Rinpoche, very likely he may not even have, the monk's robes. He may be in just very casual dress. And this mother, their housewife, took him as just an ordinary person. And then he asked if he could get a place to stay. And the mother said, okay, if you remain as a house servant, then we will provide you food, everything. Then he accepted. Because as long as he did the servant work, then he could sit comfortably and peacefully, nobody coming to bother him. Because thinking that, because even the housewife, thinking that he was just an ordinary man. Then he did that, and then slowly the students, they were looking for their master, and they came to that place. They asked the mother, did you see our master? And she said, no. And then they said, our master is with this figure, this clothes. And then she said, oh, maybe my servant. The way they describe is very much like my servant. And then she said, and the more the description was given by the students, the more that resembled, her servant. And then, in fact, this mother, what do you call that? The urine pot. In the early times, there were no toilets. So the rich families, they would have everything in the urine pot. And then the servants would go to flush. Take it out. And then the mother sent this great master, with the urine pot, with a potty, And then the mother, sensing that the servant was in fact a great master, she became so guilty. She felt so guilty, and she ran away. And later on discovered that he is the master. One. And then Atisha's student, Atisha Dibankara, his student, the most popular, the most famous student, Dromdemba. And Dromdemba is believed to be, he's a Tibetan, and Dromdemba is believed to be the reincarnation of Avalokiteshvara. And then Atisha Dibankara, when he was invited by the Tibetan emperor to come to Tibet, then he was wondering whether to go to Tibet or not. And then he used to have a vision, communion with Aratara. So he would always refer all his, cases to Aratara, and Aratara would give the directions. Then one day he was circumambulating around the Bodh Gaya temple. This very, very significant, very special Bodh Gaya temple. He was circumambulating around the Bodh Gaya temple. And then again he had a vision of Aratara, and then made the request to Aratara, or sought her advice. I'm being invited to Tibet, but I don't know whether to go or not to go. And then Aratara said, okay, if you go to Tibet, you're going to be of great, great benefit to the Tibetan people in terms of spreading the Buddha Dharma. And then at the same time, you're also going to meet with your student, who is Upasaka. Upasaka meaning not a monk, a layperson, Upasaka. And who was your student for so many lifetimes. You're also going to meet him. So these are the prophecies made by Aratara. Okay, so this Dromdemba, who is the student of Atisha Dibankara, he is highly learned and he has so many students. But his behavior, he assumes such humility, always so modest and so humble. And then one day, a very big monastery requested Dromden Gyalsay Jungne, the full name, Dromden Gyalsay Jungne, to come to give teachings. Then he accepted. And then, when he was just going there, again, because that he was not a monk, just ordinary, Upasaka practitioner, a layperson practitioner, he was going as just an ordinary person. Going there as an ordinary person. He was going, and then he met a monk. And the monk was also going to the same monastery, because he was from the monastery. And this monk thought that he's just an ordinary man. And then said, hi, where are you going? And then he said, oh, I'm going to this monastery. And the monk, at one point, he felt a little tired. And then said, hey man, would you mind helping me to carry my bag? And then Dromdemba really accepted, okay, yeah, and he took his bag. Then slowly, this monk, he was feeling very tired, and because of the long walk, the shoes were something kind of full boot, made of wool, full boot. And then the monk put off his shoes, and seeing that this is a little heavy, so he asked Dromden Gyalsay wanted to take it for him. And Dromden Gyalsay again carried his shoes as well. And didn't say anything, carrying his shoes. Then as two of them approached the monastery, there were so many monks along the roadside, waiting for someone with the special umbrella and all the ornamental decorations, incense, all the monks in line. And this monk thought, surely this is not meant for me, I'm nothing. Maybe this is the one, Dromdemba, maybe. And then he asked, hey man, are you Dromdemba? And then he said, yes, I am. Again, this monk ran away. Yeah. So look, these are the kind of things, right? Okay. Okay, so look, what I'm saying is that the great practitioners, when they are, at home, then there's always, because so many people are around, you know. So the kind of, you can give benefit to these people, but the benefit that you give to them, then the benefit that you derive through the spiritual, intense spiritual practice is unparalleled, right? Because of which, many of these great practitioners, they, deliberately go out of hometown, so that nobody knows them, and then they can do the practice so well. Okay, and also, this is very funny. Say, when you are at home, so naturally you have your family members, right? And these family members, naturally, they are not all great practitioners, right? You may be very genuine bodhisattva, but your family members may not be. Because they are not, they have their enemies, they have their friends. So when somebody say, Mr. A dislikes your brother, they have a fight, then Mr. A also dislikes you, thinking that you're also ordinary. Ordinary people say, two brothers, when Mr. A had a fight with brother A, brother B will also become angry towards Mr. A. This is the ordinary people's thinking. And then Mr. A thinks that, this man, who is said to be bodhisattva, he also, surely he's not liking me, right? And then he will have anger towards you. So that way, unnecessary, things. Yeah. And then if you are not a great practitioner, bodhisattva, if you are not a great practitioner, if you are, just a beginner, then these things can easily affect you. So easily affect you, right? So instead, if you run away, if you go away, then who cares? Who cares? Yeah. So everyone is stranger to you, right? So nobody feels angry towards you. Nobody feels excessive attached towards you. You also, are not affected by these things. So you can very productively be in the practice. Okay, this is one thing to be kept in mind. But this may not be the case that everyone has to do it. So we have to see to the situation, case by case. Okay. Third practice, giving up inhospitable places, mental afflictions gradually decrease. With no distractions, virtuous activities naturally increase. When mind becomes clear, conviction in the dharma is born. Therefore, seeking solitude is the practice of a bodhisattva. Okay, so again, the thing is that, say for example, if you are in Bangalore, right, mental afflictions, they grow. In most cases, I can't say for 100% sure, in most cases, mental afflictions gradually increase. Whereas you come to ashram, even those people who are mentally so agitated with so much of negative emotions, they come to the ashram, but they've already set their mind, I'm going to ashram, which means that they will leave behind the negative afflictions, negative thoughts behind. They come to ashram. So naturally the people in ashram, they will not be much affected by the afflictions of the outside visitors. Right. And of course, among the outside visitors, there are so many good people, right? They will bring the good qualities, and those people who are defiled with great mental afflictions, they will at least leave that behind when they come to ashram, because even their negative emotions, they are prone to external conditions, right? So when they are amidst their enemies, then the afflictions, the negative emotions are very strong, right? A competition and so forth. When they're in ashram, there's no competition, there's no one, creating unnecessary pain on them. So, temporarily at least, the negative emotions are subsided. Right. So what it is saying is that, you should seek a place. You should seek a place where your good qualities increase. So how do you know that this place is good, that place is not good? How do you know that? So that he says, giving up inhospitable places where mental afflictions gradually decrease. You go to one place and it's the mental afflictions, they slowly decrease. This is an indication that this place is a very hospitable place. With no distractions, virtuous activities naturally increase. Your negative defilements, they decrease, and your positive thoughts, they increase, they grow. When mind becomes clear, and your mind, instead of being so agitated, it becomes so cool, peaceful, and clear. Conviction in dharma grows, is born. This is what is known as a solitude place. This is the place where you should be going. Therefore, seeking solitude is the practice of a bodhisattva. Right. So because the author himself is a solitary retreatant. Right? So what he's saying is that you seek a place where your positive thoughts grow and your negative thoughts diminish. This is what we are to seek. And it doesn't mean that everyone should go in the mountains. Right. Okay, stanza 4. Friends and relatives acquainted for long will separate. Possessions gained with exertion will be left behind. Consciousness, the guest, will leave the guest house of the body. To let go of this life is the practice of a bodhisattva. Again, it's very precise, So if you look at the people, most of the people, so instead of what is being advised here, they just do the opposite, right? They look at the wealth. They look at, the physical beauty and the wealth as their ultimate goal. Right. And because of which, in the process of trying to get these, right, they invest so much of energy, money, time, everything. Then in the process, they become old. Right. And then, whatever little they get, they lose. Right. So what it is saying is that friends and relatives acquainted for long will separate. So if you feel so attached to the friends and relatives, in fact, you will be separate from them eventually. Possessions gained with exertion will be left behind. And then at the time of death, whatever you have accumulated, you will be separated from the possessions in the world. And then, at the time of death, even the mind, the consciousness, which is like a guest, your body is like a guest house, and your mind is like the guest. So even this guest, the mind, has to leave this guest house of your body. Right. The consciousness, the guest, will leave the guest house of the body. So now, to let go of this life is the practice of the Bodhisattva. What it is saying there is that, again, if you're simply concentrated on this life alone and not think of the future lives, this is very dangerous. Right? So we have to use this body, you have to use the possession, time, whatever, of course for the good of this life, but also plan for the future lives. Not fully be dedicated towards this life's wealth and this life's power. Okay. Practice 5. But now the question is, because that, these are the ideals that bodhisattvas should be acting, we should have such a great inspiration from your friends. If you're with good friends, you will also acquire the good qualities. If you're with bad friends, you will be affected by the bad influence. So how to judge whether the other person is a bad friend or a good friend? So stanza 5 is talking about what is the mark of a good friend. When friendship with someone causes the 3 poisons to this is the mark of bad friend. Bad friend. It says when friendship with someone causes the 3 poisons to increase. You befriend with someone, and then anger increases in you, attachment increases in you, ignorance increases in you. Number 1. Then number 2, degrades the activities of listening, reflecting, and meditating. And then earlier you may be so, you may be so keen on meditating or reflecting or learning and so forth. Now being friend with someone or with some group, even these qualities, they diminish and destroys loving kindness and compassion. Earlier you may have qualities of loving kindness and compassion, they diminish. If that happens, the person with whom you are associating is a bad friend. You have to relinquish, give up such a friendship. To give up such a friendship is a practice of a bodhisattva. Practice 6. When in reliance on someone, your negativities diminish. Now what about the good friends? Good friends is when in reliance on that person or someone, your negativities diminish and your positive qualities grow like a waxing moon. To cherish such a spiritual friend more than your own body is a practice of a bodhisattva. Practice 7. Themselves captives in the prison of samsara, whom can the worldly gods protect? Therefore to seek refuge in the three jewels who do not betray you is the practice of a bodhisattva. So here the three jewels, we may speak about Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, but to put it in a very secular way, secular sense, it is the best teacher, best teaching, and the best companion. So these are the three jewels, right? Okay. So say they are worldly. Even in the Buddhist communities, there are so many worldly gods and goddesses. The local spirits, and some people they take themselves to be Buddhists, and then some of the local spirits, they became spirit because of earlier the spirit was a human being. They had a fight with someone, they die with such a tragic death, they have such a tragic death, then they are born as a spirit, very powerful spirit, and then the local people they put them worship the spirit. So this spirit is a local spirit. It's just a local spirit. And in fact, it is advised that, say for example, if there is someone who is a naughty person, right? Maybe you can use this person, not as your reliable friend, but as, because he's so naughty and so active, you can assign him with some works, then let him do these works. And then don't think that he's the reliable person. Right, so that way you can receive the benefit, but not to take him as your spiritual friend like that. So like that, the local spirits, they are not to be taken as the final source of refuge. They are to be taken as just like your servants or maids, right? Whereas in many of the localities, these people, because of their lack of knowledge of the proper dharma, they tend to take these local spirits as the highest source of refuge. And when you listen to the stories about how these local spirits came into being, mostly they came out of very tragic, things. Yeah.
So on death, these spirits automatically transform into spirits?
Not necessarily.
Or they have to be reborn as spirits?
Reborn.
Also rebirth as a
Yeah.
spirit.
Yeah.
So even the spiritual realm, they have to take birth.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So these local spirits, they are themselves captives in the prison of samsara. They have no understanding of emptiness, they have no understanding of the bodhicitta. They simply become a very powerful spirit, And then, which means that they are also in samsara. So themselves captives in the prison of samsara, whom can the worldly gods protect? So how can these local spirits can protect you from samsara? Because they are also within samsara. Therefore, to seek refuge. Now, to whom should you seek refuge? You should seek refuge in someone who has already gone out from samsara, who has already seen everything as dreamlike, and who has already the bodhicitta. Right. So that is the perfect state of that is the perfect teacher, and then that's teaching of the wisdom, the teaching of compassion, and then the practitioners of the wisdom and the practitioners of compassion. So these are the three jewels who do not betray you. This is the practice of bodhisattva. the suffering of the lower realms, so difficult to bear, is what the Buddha taught to be the fruit of negative actions. Therefore, even in the course of your life, never to commit negative actions or negative karma is the practice of bodhisattvas. So, we see that, again, another thing that we need to make sure is not to engage in the negative karmas. Because with suffering, with acute suffering, then, you can't really think of dharma. You can't really think of, when you have a free time, then you will think of how everything is dreamlike, then you think of compassion. Whereas when you yourself is inflicted with such a pain, you can't really get time to think of, these dharma things. So these pains are the results of negative karma. So as a bodhisattva practitioner, you should abandon the negative karmas. So what he's saying is that the suffering of the lower realms, so difficult to bear, is what the Buddha taught to be the fruit of the negative actions or negative karmas. And also, when you're born, say the suffering that one experiences in the lower realms, such as animals, such as the hungry ghosts, patrons, and such as the hell realms. So in all these three cases, the suffering is terrible, and then your opportunity to learn about dharma, your opportunity to learn about compassion, the wisdom is not still there, right? So, and what made you to be born in the lower realms is because of the negative karmas, right? Is what the Buddha taught to be the fruit of the negative karmas or negative actions. Therefore, even at the course of your life, never to commit negative actions is the practice of a bodhisattva. Okay, next. Happiness in the three realms. Happiness in the three realms referring to human realm, deva realm, and the semi-deva. Okay, so, there is what is known as the semi-god or the semi-devas, right? So, happiness in the three realms, like the dew on a blade of grass, is subject to instantaneous fading away. So to strive for the supreme state of liberation that never wavers is the practice of bodhisattva. Okay, so what it says here is that while you are in the three realms of samsara, right, the desire realm, form realm, and formless realm, in the three realms, you have the happiness. You get some happiness. But if you think about the happiness, then if this happiness, they are more like very instantaneous, very impermanent, right? They are like a dew on a blade of grass. Dew, the water drop on the blade of grass. Early morning you see this dew, and then when the sun shines, then they all disappear. They are such temporary deceptive pleasures. So happiness in the three realms, like dew on a blade of grass, is subject to instantaneous fading away. So because that the happiness that we see in samsara, they are so instantaneous, they're so impermanent, and if you feel so attached to them, meanwhile you miss the opportunity to look for the greater happiness. So what should you do? To strive for the supreme state of liberation. To strive for the supreme state of liberation that never wavers is the practice of a bodhisattva. Okay. Now the practice of bodhicitta. From the beginningless time, your mothers, referring to all the sentient beings, your mothers have cherished you. If they now suffer, what good is your happiness? Say, you have such a loving and caring mother. And your mother is illiterate. And while she's illiterate, whatever she had given to you. And then whatever she had, she invested everything on your education, on your physical health. Now she is really very old, and you are very educated, and you are being respected everywhere. And then you enjoy. But if you see your mother suffering terribly among the beggars, and yourself being respected so much in fact, to think sensibly. What is the use of your happiness? The kind mother, incredibly affectionate mother, who made you what you are, is suffering terribly there. What is the good of your own happiness? Right. So, from the beginningless time, your mothers have cherished you. If they now suffer, what good is your own happiness? Therefore, in order to liberate limitless numbers of sentient beings, cultivating bodhicitta is the practice of bodhisattva. Beautiful. All suffering comes from yearning for your own happiness. Now this part, so that stanza 10 is the first method, the method of cultivating bodhicitta by means of the sevenfold cause-effect relationship. Stanza 11 is the cultivating bodhicitta by means of the equalizing and exchanging oneself on others. So stanza 11 says, all suffering comes from yearning for your own happiness. The perfect Buddhas are born from the intention to benefit others. Therefore, to truly exchange your own happiness for the suffering of others is the practice of a bodhisattva. Right. Okay, stanza 12. Even if someone driven by excessive desire steals all your wealth or incites someone else to steal it, to dedicate to this person your body, possession, and all your virtue of the 3 times is the practice of a bodhisattva. So in fact, now bodhisattvas, as a practitioner of bodhisattva, the material things that we have, they are temporary wealth. The real wealth is the inner wealth. In the process of giving away all these temporary wealths, you accumulate the inner wealth. Right. So what it is saying is that even if someone driven by excessive desire steals all your wealth, external wealth, or incites someone else to steal it, to dedicate to this person your body, possessions, and all your virtue of the 3 times is the practice of a bodhisattva. So as a bodhisattva, it is advised that, say for example, Sudhakar and Sudarshan, 2 of you, whatever you have, say for example, your cupboard in the school, it has so many books, pencils and candies, all these things, they are not meant for oneself. They are to be distributed, to be given to others. So for the bodhisattvas, the advice is that in relation to oneself, you should have the minimum things. In relation to benefiting others, you should have the maximum. So the bodhisattva, say for example the monks, usually, the monks can be thought of on 2 levels. The monks simply seeking personal liberation, and the monks, seeking the bodhisattva's path. Right? So physically, they are both monks. But the monks with that intention to become just oneself liberated, seeking personal liberation, that monk is not supposed to keep any, material possessions. Because for him, keeping material possessions, right, it is not meant for others, naturally, because he is seeking personal liberation, right? And then, likewise, for himself, if he keeps that, it would increase his craving, attachment. And attachment what binds him to samsara. So it hinders him from achieving nirvana. Right. So the monks who are nuns, as well as nuns, seeking personal liberation, they are not to keep anything extra than what is advised by the Buddha. But whereas for the monks and nuns who are following the bodhisattva path, they are encouraged. They are encouraged. In fact, they are advised to keep things, as many as they get, but out of
compassion for others.
But out of a genuine means, not out of crooked means of getting this wealth, right? You have this wealth, but meant,
yourself,
of course,
but for others.
meant for others. Because the bodhisattvas, the very motivation, going along the path is not for oneself, it's for the good of others. For others, all others who need your benefit, they are not following, they may not necessarily be following the bodhisattva path. They may not be even following path. They may be simply seeking your piece of bread, or simply seeking a pencil or a pen or a book from you. right? Or just 100 rupees to pay his or her electricity bill, right? So for that, you need to have that with you, right? So the bodhisattvas are advised. If the bodhisattvas try to discard everything, thinking that, oh no, this is hindering me from achieving liberation or Buddhahood, then this is a downfall. Yeah. Okay. So, even if someone driven by excessive desire steals all your wealth or incites someone else to steal it, to dedicate to this person your body, possession, all your virtue of the 3 times is a practice of bodhisattva. 13. If someone cuts off your head, even when you have not done the slightest wrong, through the power of compassion, to take his misdeeds upon yourself is the practice of bodhisattva. So these are very difficult bodhisattva practices. But, if you are unable to cultivate this strength of thought, achieving Buddhahood is impossible. Right. So it doesn't mean that you go and tell someone, please cut my head. It doesn't mean that. What it is saying is that you must, if your mental strength is not up to this mark, say it is advised that when you're not prepared, you admire the bodhisattva path so much. You admire achieving Buddhahood is so good for the good of all sentient beings. You want to become a bodhisattva. You want to become Buddha. At the same time, your mental strength is not too advanced, right? And then say someone needs your eyes, and you're not ready for that. Then the Buddha advised you not to give your eyes at that point, right? Because if you give that, then after giving that you may regret. Once you regret, then it leaves such a mental imprint of feeling disgusting feeling towards following the bodhisattva path. So next time you hear someone else, oh, following bodhisattva path is so good, and then you will feel disgusted. So you will really be turned away from following the Buddha's path. So the Buddha advised you not to do it unless you feel such a joy in giving your eyes. When you feel a little hesitant or, uneasiness, don't give it. If you give it, it is wrong. Right? So under such situation, the Buddha advises us that mentally give it. Mentally give it. Mentally give it. So that the mental strength is built up. Right. Okay. So the thing is that following this path, if you have say 10,000 rupees, and someone is deliberately in need of 10,000 rupees, if you could give with joy, give it, no problem. But if there's a little bit of uneasiness in you, what after giving this, how will I survive myself? This kind of uneasiness, see how much you can give with joy. 500 rupees, say 5,000 rupees, or still uneasiness. 2,000 rupees, okay, but still not really joyous. 1,000, 1,000 I can easily give up, easily give. Just give 1,000. And the rest, mentally, train. Okay, next time, may I be able to give all 10,000 rupees. Eventually, may I be able to give whatever I have. Eventually, may I be able to give whatever I have. This is the training we need to go through. Right, so mentally. So, learning this, giving whatever you can, not at all giving anything, sitting very comfortably and seeing the other person suffering, still no problem, no worry at all within you, and then mentally saying that, let me be able to give everything in the future. This doesn't make any sense. Just give something, what you can. And the remaining, then mentally you try to, Number one, you empathize with the person. You empathize with the person. Number two, you can also think of that person in the light of your own mothers, in the light of your child, your own son, your own daughter. When it comes to your own son or your own daughter, you can give everything. in true sense is same. It's just a matter of time difference, right? So still, although this is intellectually the reality, but because we are not up to that spiritually evolved, because we are not spiritually evolved to that extent, right? So we have to know this fact, and at the same time mentally try to learn more, right? Try to train. Okay. If someone cuts off your head, even when you have not done the slightest wrong, through the power of compassion, to take his misdeeds upon yourself is the practice of a bodhisattva. Look, practice 12. So that is to, to undermine your attachment. And practice 13 is to undermine your anger. Right, okay. So when somebody comes to, to hit you or cut your head like that, then naturally anger would arise. So instead of anger, try to cultivate compassion. Right. Okay, so practice 14. Should someone slander you in a billion worlds with a loving heart to proclaim his good qualities, in return is the practice of bodhisattva. This is really very important. Really very important. And say, what we tend to do is that if there is someone with whom you have some friction, in front of him, of course, you will, show such a dirty face. Even behind, you will, backbite the person. Even if the person doesn't hear you, it's not affected by what you're backbiting, but still you tend to backbite. This is our ordinary people's thinking pattern. Now, to bring about a real transformation and change within yourself, right? So you're looking for a change. You don't want to remain who you are earlier, who you were, the earlier person. You want to bring a change. So this change, for that change, you need to have a change in your conduct as well, in your behavior. Earlier, you used to backbite the person whom you dislike. Now, instead of backbiting, try to proclaim his qualities. And then see what a change is coming in your mind. And this is very practical and very effective way of bringing about change in your mind. Right? So say you dislike someone, Mr. A. You have a fight. It's quite natural, It doesn't mean that you have to fight, It doesn't mean that. But sometimes it can happen. Even if that happens spontaneously, but behind him, don't try to say anything bad about him. Number one. Then, originally, it is easier just to remain neutral rather than saying good things about the person. Then slowly, don't remain there. Try to upgrade from being neutral to praising the person. Right? So the other person is expecting you belittling or backbiting him. But then the other person will be shocked to hear from others that you are praising him or her. Right? When that happens, the other person will start respecting you. Because the other person has been backbiting you. Right? And then the other person will see the contrast between himself or herself and you. So then, with this respect, when the other person meets you again, there will be, this sign of respect coming from the other person. The person will surrender at you. And then when you see the other person surrendering, then you see the benefit of your compassion, the effect of your compassion. And then you become so convinced in the power of your compassion. And then, you become more compassionate towards this person. Again, there's a ripple effect. You feel more compassionate, the other person surrenders even more. Then the other person, most importantly, not only that you learn your compassion, the other person also learns compassion from you. Genuine compassion from you. Right. Okay, so this is really very important. Right. Okay. In the middle of the say, should someone slander you in a billion worlds with a loving heart to proclaim his good qualities, in return is the practice of a bodhisattva. This is really very important. Practice 15. If in the middle of a crowd of people, someone reveals your hidden faults and abuses you for them, to see him as a spiritual friend and to bow with respect is the practice of a bodhisattva. This is again very important, Okay, 16. If someone who you cherish as dearly as your own child takes you for an enemy, then like a mother whose child is sick, to love that person even more is a practice of bodhisattva. So now stanza 16 shows us the contrast in how the ordinary people behave and how a bodhisattva should be behaving. Say, you have been treating someone so nicely and so kindly, There is someone whom you have been, been so compassionate and so caring towards. Then, that person, instead of showing you affection and instead of repaying your kindness, instead, the person tries to be so bad and harmful towards you. How would the ordinary people react? Then the ordinary people will take this person as the worst of the enemy. They will say that, I don't mind my enemy being harmful towards me, but it really hurts me when this person, harms me because, I've been doing so good with this person. In fact, your affection towards that person is with the expectation that this person will do something good to you. Whereas the bodhisattvas, there's no expectation in return of the good that you have done to the other person. So that person does something harmful to you, then you take it as the opportunity. Look, this is the case, which can easily stir your compassion. As a bodhisattva, your compassion should not waver. And this is the test, how strong my compassion is. So, teacher, the job of the teacher is to teach you, is to point to your mistakes. Tests are given, for example, the exam, class 10 exam going today in your ashram school. So the test is given to see the weakness of the students and then to rectify, to improve, to build, to remove the weakness. This is the purpose of the test. So the teachers are meant to improve you through pointing to your mistakes. And for you are already, practicing bodhisattva's ideals, compassion, so forth. In fact, ordinary situations, for example, if there's a sick person, compassion automatically comes. You as a bodhisattva, a practitioner, compassion automatically comes. And then, say there is one, person who is really very harsh. Everybody dislikes that person, but you as a bodhisattva, your bodhisattva follower, you see that, he has his own problem, we have to understand his problem, understandable. Even that may not create agitation in you. But the person to whom you have been caring so much for the last 20 years, now harming you, that can easily stir your compassion. Or they can easily waver your compassion. Right. Then that is the test. If there is a wavering happening, if there's a slight anger occurring in you, this is an indication that your compassion is not fully matured. And who is able to point to you this? It is this person. So this person really becomes a teacher. Even a teacher, outside teacher, cannot really point to this level of, the mistake in you. So this person is able to point to your mistake. So he or she is a real teacher. So teacher is someone whom you should, pay respect for being so kind to your improvement. Right. So it says that if someone who you cherish, 16, if someone whom you cherish as dearly as your own child takes you for an enemy, then like a mother whose child is sick, to love that person even more is the practice of a bodhisattva, So now look, like a teacher, number one, then from your point of view, say, what happens is that when the child becomes excessively sick, then he will, can make complaints so easily. Just over small things will complain, because of his or her own sickness, right? That the mother will not take these as complaints. Seeing the more complaints coming from the sick child, the mother feels exceptionally compassionate, right? Because it is of the sickness that he or she is making all these complaints. Sickness means nobody wants sickness. Sickness is a problem. Sickness is a pain in that. So seeing the pain, the problems, the complaints made by the child, the mother takes this as the sign of the pain of the child. Seeing the pain of the child, mother feels compassionate. A mother feels more compassionate. So like that, this person, after being, you giving so much of care, now harming you indicates that this person is really sick. There's something wrong going in this person's mind. Wrong means is something defect. Nobody wants to have this defect. So there's a great defect. So like a mother feeling the pain of the child who is complaining so much out of sickness, you will also take that person as having a great defect in that person. Because this person, by doing so, is accumulating enormous negative karma. You've been so kind, and then now repaying with harm to you, which means accumulating so much of negative karma. So negative karma will let the person suffer more in the future. So seeing the suffering of this person happening in the future, you feel exceptionally compassionate, like the mother feeling towards a child who, a sick child who is complaining too much. Right. Okay. So these are really very practical. If you think more, deeper, then we will not see anyone to, complain about. Okay. Again, 16. If someone who you cherish as dearly as your own child takes you for an enemy, then like a mother whose child is sick, to love that person even more is the practice of a bodhisattva. Verse 17. Even when someone whom is your equal or inferior, driven by arrogance, seeks to disparage you, to place him on the crown of your head, with the same respect you would accord your guru, is the practice of a bodhisattva. Right? Say, again, we are in the world, and the world is imperfect. Imperfect means people who are always there to create problems, right? And they're feeling jealousy towards you, they're feeling competitive towards you, right? So even those people who are of your equal standard, or standard of living, standard of thinking, standard of knowledge, and worse still, people who are inferior to you, out of their, illusion, they think that they are superior to you. They come to feel jealousy. They come to feel competitive towards you. So when you come across these situations, driven by arrogance, seeks to disparage you, to place him on the crown of your head, with the same respect you would accord to your guru, is a practice of bodhisattva. So look, the thing is that if you really practice the bodhisattva, bodhicitta, in terms of with these two means, the two methods, right? Then slowly, what the point, which is Marshe, Tinden, Tinso, Yuwon Chamba, point 4, where you see all beings in the light of great affection. For example, two of you, when you see Kirti, for no reason, you think of his image coming to your mind, is so pleasing, so delightful. Delightful appearance. So like that, through that practice of the bodhicitta, the two means, we will slowly be able to see everyone in the light of great joy, great affection. Right? When that happens, say for example, Kirti has such a beautiful English, right? And then, so two of you, he's becoming so good in English, he might become so popular. Now it is a threat to our, prestige, kind of fame, No, this thought will never come to you. But someone else, a stranger, seeing this, written by a 10-year-old boy, may feel threat or may feel jealousy. Right? Why not? A sense of jealousy coming in two of you. Instead, feeling of pride comes in you. Feeling of pride. Why? Simply because of the affection. when there is affection, when there is genuine affection, then greater the success the other person is having, the greater the joy you will have. Whereas lesser the affection, greater the success in others, more jealousy comes in you, more uneasiness comes in you. Right. So what it is saying here is that when somebody comes to disparage you, you should be able to, train in the two methods and be able to see everyone in the light of great affection. So with that, say for example, you are the Prime Minister, right? You become the Prime Minister of the country. And then your son or daughter who is just like, 3 years old or 4 years old, coming to hit you. You will not say, I'm the Prime Minister, what are you doing that? You will not say that, right? And you are in the middle of the crowd, and then your son or the daughter, just 3 or 4 years old, comes by and says something, disrespectful. You simply laugh. You smile. There's no sense of arrogance coming to you, right? This is purely out of affection. Whereas if a stranger comes, then you'll show, at least you will show a sense of being really reserved. You will remain so reserved, right? To show your dignity. But when it comes to the very affectionate relationship between your child and the parents, then this dignity and this simply dissolves. Purely out of affection. Right. So, again, the same point is that when, someone else of your equal or inferior, driven by arrogance, seeks to disparage you, to place this person on the crown of your head, with the same respect you would accord to your guru, is the practice of a bodhisattva. Right? So basically, that's very true. When you train in the two methods, then when you're able to see everyone in the light of great affection, like your own child, then this is bound to happen. When somebody comes to disparage you, instead of feeling anger, you will see that person to be able to as an indicator to your mistakes inside. Say for example, if somebody says, hey, accuse you in public, naturally, you will also feel agitated, which means, agitated means something is wrong within you also. Because the Buddha and the great beings, they will not feel agitated. Right? When you get agitated and others don't become agitated, which means something is wrong within you. So he is able to point to you what is wrong within you. So the pointer, someone who points to your mistake is your guru. Right? It's your guru. So the guru, a spiritual guru, is someone who uplifts you in the spiritual path. And this person is really actually uplifting you in your spiritual path. Right? It is only through identifying your mistakes that you can think of rectifying them. And to identify the mistakes is not easy. Right? If there is no one around who is accusing you like that, as giving a test to you, then you might feel always gentle, calm, peaceful, everybody respecting you, oh Guruji, like that, And then you may be in the midst of illusion that you are already a great bodhisattva. Then the moment somebody comes to accuse you, then you flare up with your anger. Right. So the other persons who has been respecting so much to you, they have not been kind teachers to you. Only this person who's able to provoke, this agitation within you is able to point to your mistake inside. So this person is a real guru, spiritual guru. So with the same respect you would accord to your guru is the practice of a bodhisattva. Okay. 18. Though gripped by poverty and always scorned, though stricken by acute illness and possessed by evil spirits, to take upon yourself the negativities and suffering of every being and never to get discouraged is the practice of a bodhisattva. Now look, this is another very important point. Say, when you are sick, when we are sick, ordinary people, when we are sick, you say, oh, I can't really practice, dharma now, I'm sick. Or when you are, when you feel low, you might say, oh, today I'm not going to do the practice because I feel low today. right? So these are actually not to be done. Particularly when you are in such tragic situations, never give up your practice, right? So this will build a habit. This will build a very positive habit whereby you will always encounter with the Dharma practice, right? Okay, though gripped by poverty and always scorned. Okay, so the boy that, I was thinking of inviting, Rasham, in fact, so reading this stanza, I would say he's great. Because materially he has nothing. He has really nothing. And still, although he is really very poor, it doesn't mean that he has, all the relatives are so poor. There are so many good relatives, but he's deliberately, relatives want him to be in some other directions, and he wants to be in the spiritual direction. So naturally, he has to, cut off from the relationship with his relatives. So naturally, he is, not having anything, he's poor. Still, his mind towards the spiritual path is very strong. He goes in the mountain, stays with.
They can come here and stay with us.
No, yes. So I'm giving yeah. So he stays with with the other hermits, and then seek their guidance, live with them, watch how they're living. And look, so this is what we, say when it's gripped by poverty and always being scorned by others, or being scorned, oh, now I'm going to give up dharma. This is really, unwise. Even if someone scorns you, even if you're gripped with poverty, if you persist with your dharma practice, this is your strength. If you give up, this is a real failure. Right? If you're poor, this is not a failure. If somebody scorns you, this is not a failure. If you give up the dharma practice, bodhisattva practice, this is the real failure. And no one can make you give up that. It is only you who can do it. No one can bring your failure. It is only you who can bring your failure. Right. Okay. So to take upon yourself the negativities and suffering of every being, say, the great practitioners in the past, what they do is that when they are sick, acutely sick, they pray. Instead of giving up the dharma, now I'm sick, I can't do it anymore. Instead of that, they would use this as the opportunity to enhance his practice. Say, when they are acutely painful with sickness, they would pray that may all the sickness of the world they befall on me, with the sickness that I already have. May everybody be freed from any kind of sickness. And instead, I experience on their behalf. So look, while you have this sickness, but this sickness is really becoming like an opportunity for him to practice the Bodhisattva's courage. And the courage is being built in, getting built in. Okay. So likewise, say when you come across, very unfortunate situation. You didn't do anything bad, and then somehow, everything befalls on you. And then, this is what is happening, millions and millions. There are millions and millions of such cases in the world. Then, it has already happened to you. Okay, this is unfortunate. But then, make it something meaningful. Pray that may this never happen to anyone else. Whatever the situation, whatever is bound to happen to everyone else, let it, occur on me now. Let me be the one who suffers on behalf of everyone. This is a great practice. Right? So beautiful.
I have a question.
Yes.
We are practicing bodhicitta to the best of our ability. Practicing in terms of real life, living. But practicing in terms of meditation or severe physical practice, focusing the mind, etc., are things which are not always happening with me. Now the question is, I will never give up dharma, because even in my worst mental or physical state, that is the way that we have adopted. So giving up dharma does not arise. But how much bad karma do I accumulate by not practicing regularly?
It's not really accumulating bad karma. It's not accumulating bad karma. It's only depriving yourselves of the virtuous karma to be accumulated. So what I'm saying is that by not practicing,
the loss is yours.
The loss is yours. This is the point. The thing is that actually what you have been doing, the ashram work and the school children, look, so they are just dependent on you, that's it. And for example, in the very prestigious schools, the school, the staff members or the principal or the administrators, if they don't do something good, the students are not so dependent on them. They will simply complain and they are replaced. But here, this is not the case, What you are doing is purely out of your affection, purely out of a sense of responsibility to the Guruji, This is an altruistic task. This is not a commercial task, As such, look at how the students, they amount of respect, amount of affection that show towards you, right? This is already a practice of the bodhicitta, right? Now, at the same time, I would really suggest that, to two of you and to myself as well, that on a daily basis, make it a point, at least 10 minutes of sitting, In terms of practical things, no question, you're doing it almost 24 hours. This is what you're doing.
Yes, that was what I was wanting.
This is what you're doing. But then, the thing is that how much you can do. What you've been doing is so good. Still there's room for improvement. And this improvement, will come to you with doing a little bit of sitting meditation. With sitting meditation, you will get the opportunity to think inwardly. Thinking inwardly, then you will see, where are the mistakes, where to be, strengthened, and so forth. Whereas, if you're always outwardly driven, you're doing something, but the improvement is not there. Right? So, we should not be feeling complacent.
There's no complacence, but what happens is the body sometimes is not with me enough.
So what it says is, though gripped by the poverty and always gone, though stricken by acute illness and possessed by evil spirits, to take upon yourself all the negativities and suffering of every being, and never to get discouraged, is the practice of Bodhisattva. So what I'm saying is that when you're physically very weak, at least 10 minutes.
But then, even when I'm lying down, and I don't have the body stamina to sit up, but even when I'm lying down, my mind is always working on this only.
But still I would say, sit up.
That's what I wanted to understand.
Unless you are invalidated. Unless you are really bedridden with your sickness. Even to eat your food, you have to eat lying down. Then then this is exempted.
No, but my mind
No.
in dharma.
This is what I have been through. I have been through,
Okay.
for the last 20-something years. I've been seeing if I can do the same practice while comfortably in the dream. No, no, in sleeping,
24 hours
lying down. But this is not good.
No, I am not saying that you lie down and do it necessarily. Even when you're working, when you're cooking, when you're doing anything.
No, sitting means sitting.
Sitting means sitting.
It means sitting. It has a purpose.
Okay.
It has a great meaning.
Sense.
Yeah. Otherwise, say for example, you just go to school, walking, you can also think, you can also think, then sitting there, then instructing the teachers, and showing some affection towards the children. Then you come back to the office, again you can think. But if you think in that terms, in true sense, I'm being very bold enough, very straightforward. It is in fact deceiving yourself. Because the real recharging of your,
of your own dynamo lies in the sitting meditation.
Absolutely. This is very important. When you sit, this is how our mind, at one point, when you become really evolved, then 24 hours will become your practice. When you are really become evolved. Say, the outwardly, when your mind is outwardly directed, it also becomes inwardly directed. But at the moment, this is not happening. Right. So at the moment, you must keep it open, because the outward, your mind going outwardly, so that is always there. But your mind inwardly directed, this is so less. So we must give at least 10%, or not really 10%, not even 10%, 10 minutes, on that. This is really very important, So I thought that, oh, now look, I'm not getting much time with this office work, having to travel here, there, so forth. So while eating or while sleeping, I can, think about this. It is not really happening. The power is not there.
So when you travel on the aircraft and you're sitting, then don't you meditate?
Of course. So travel meaning, when I travel, in fact for me, I would say, at one point, if I travel from Dharamsala to Delhi, and particularly in the private cars, it is such a good meditation happening. Because I don't talk. I sit, I tie the belt. Without tying the belt, again your mind is directed, Oh, I have to stop, I have to hold the head. So with the belt tied, gone, that part. Your mind should not be, your mind is free from that. And then, even if there's a jerk, I don't care, right? Give me a little jerk, but I'm sure that I'm not going to bang against the car. So, then I do my meditation. It's so good. But then, say you're a little sick, and then you lie down, and you meditation. No, not for us. Yeah.
That's not meditation, that's just idle thinking.
So basically meditation. So 10 minutes of meditation is minimum.
What I'm saying is lying down and thinking about these things.
So that should be extra.
That's idle thinking.
This should be extra. Is not the main thing. Right. Okay. 19. 18 is when you are gripped with a very sad and very,
lowest phase
of your mind. Then 19 is when you are very uplifted, too uplifted. Though famous and prominent, someone to whom others bow, though you amass the riches like that of the God of wealth, to see that worldly splendor has no essence, and thus to be without arrogance is the practice of a bodhisattva. This is so beautiful. Because when you become, say, when you're stricken with poverty, when everybody scorns you, you feel so low. This is your weakness. Say, this shows that you are a very ordinary person. Then, everybody starts respecting you. You become so rich, Then arrogance easily comes in. And this is also indication that you're a very weak, ordinary person. Right? Say, the more people comes to respect you, the more affection flows, the more humble you remain. Then, however badly, low you become, very low phase of your, a time of your mind, still you mentally remain so, calm and peaceful. This is what is required, what is to be cultivated and built. Okay, so 19 again. Though famous and prominent, someone to whom others bow, Though you amass the riches like that of the God of wealth, to see that worldly splendor has no essence, and thus to be without arrogance, is a practice of a bodhisattva. In fact, the arrogance, this is really the poison, which impedes one from following the bodhisattva's path. By the very word bodhisattva, sattva means, heroic, bodhi, Buddhahood, perfection. Someone's heroic, courageous enough to make the commitment to become a Buddha out of incredible compassion, incredible affection towards all the mother sentient beings, which means you are filled with compassion. When there's incredible compassion, compassion simply undermines arrogance. There's no room for arrogance when there's compassion. This is what I noticed so beautifully, when I was a student myself. When I was maybe how old I was? Maybe I was age 14 or 13. Around that age, I noticed there was one teacher. And the ashram school, look at how the students, the children, they have their respect towards their teachers. Similar was the case when I was a young boy, because there was more like ashram school, because it is not that my father was paying, thousands rupees. No, he's not at all paying anything. It is pure out of charity. So the respect from the children's side towards the teachers and staffs is incredible. So there was one, teacher, and who also happened to be one of the foster parents in one home. So he's a teacher plus a foster parent in that home. So in that home, there were about 31 homes, and each home has about 30 to 40 children. And then one day, when I was just 13 or 14 years old, I was really startled to see, that a very young boy, aged say 9 or 10, putting his arm, on that teacher's shoulder, sitting like this. And this boy is no relationship whatsoever with the teacher. That teacher was the foster parent of this boy's home. That's it. And I couldn't believe myself. And I was just 13 or 14 years old. I couldn't believe. And then, because the teacher is highly respected, we bow, we respect. We can't dare to, just forget about putting your arms on his shoulder. Simply going without pressing the palms together would be disrespectful. But he's daring to do that, and the teacher also not saying that don't do it. He's letting him do. That was a kind of dilemma to me. And I was just young, 10, 14 years old. Then I was thinking, if it was what I would consider as a regular or a normal situation, then this teacher would easily punish this young boy. But instead of that, the teacher was not at all taking any note of that, and the boy also, so comfortably, so happily putting his arms on the shoulder of the teacher. And then that thought really went on in my mind. How come this is happening? How come this is happening? How come this teacher has no sense of, arrogance or sense of pride, that I'm a teacher? Why? Why this is happening? It's so beautiful. Why? And then I discovered, as a boy, it's purely out of affection. So when the affection is there, then the arrogance has no room. Whereas if you have no affection towards your school, your class student, and one student comes to put his hand on you, then you will easily feel arrogant and you flare with anger. Then I noticed that it was purely out of affection. This is what I discovered when I was just a boy. Okay, 19 again. Though famous and prominent, someone to whom others bow, though you amass the riches like that of a god of wealth, To see that worldly splendor has no essence, and thus to be without arrogance is the practice of a bodhisattva. 20. If you have not pacified the enemy of your anger, combating outer opponents will only make them multiply. Therefore, with an army of loving kindness and compassion, to tame your own mind is the practice of a bodhisattva. This is very true. This is very true. His Holiness the Dalai Lama gives the example of, tackling Iraq situation. So when the Saddam Hussein, when the Twin Towers was demolished, then President Bush was thinking of counterattacking. Then His Holiness sent a letter to President Bush taking measure for this unfortunate incident by force will not work. So only through peace you think of tackling the situation. And then, because he says that violence is very unpredictable. Violence will multiply. So this is exactly what is said here. If you have not pacified the enemy of your anger, combating outer opponents will only make them multiply. Therefore, with an army of loving kindness and compassion, to tame your own mind is the practice of a bodhisattva. Right? So, this is the very beautiful part of compassion. When you're able to, with all the nasty things the other person is doing against you, if you're able to convince the other person of your genuine affection, genuine compassion, right? The other person, as soon as senses your genuine compassion, will surrender, will unharm, disarm himself. This is so true. Because what makes this small child binds with the parents is the affection. Likewise, this is no exception to anyone. This is common to everyone. However old you are, you need affection from others. So this affection will bind you, will bind others towards you and you towards others. Okay, therefore, with an army of loving kindness and compassion, to tame your own mind is the practice of a bodhisattva. Sensual pleasures are like salt water. The more you partake of them, the more your craving will increase. Therefore, when something arouses attachment, to abandon it immediately is the practice of bodhisattva. Okay, so taking salt water, when you drink a salty water, what happens is that thirst comes in you. And then to quench this thirst, you again drink the same water. So there's an immediate gratification, immediate subsiding of the thirst. Again, it will create more, the thirst gets increased. So this is exactly when you partake in the sensual pleasures. Sensual pleasures are like salt water. The more you partake of them, the more your craving will increase. Therefore, when something arouses attachment, to abandon it immediately is the practice of a bodhisattva. Okay. Now 22 is about the wisdom, how everything is to be seen in the light of the dream life. All appearances are your own mind, and mind itself primordially transcends all mental fabrications. Knowing this, and to remain free from apprehending the signs of subject and object is the practice of a bodhisattva. Right. So this is a great summation. Right. So particularly when you think about emptiness, when you think about how everything is dreamlike, we need to pick up all these very powerful stanzas. For example, this stanza is one of them. There are so many such stanzas. Try to collect those stanzas, in one notebook, in one place, and then when you do a meditation, sitting meditation, right, on the emptiness or on this ultimate reality, keep it there. First read all these stanzas, then try to arrange them in proper order, which is most effective to you, right? And then you can number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You need at least 10 or 10 to 20 stanzas, right? And then keep it there. And then just, assume there's sitting posture. Then think about, and if possible, recite the stanzas. Recite the stanza, and then stop for a while. Then think about it. And then you can also go through the 4 essentials. Go through the 4 essentials. Whenever it strikes, whenever it strikes your mind, some kind of experience coming to you, then you back this experience with these powerful stanzas. Then it will even, go deeper into you, right? Okay, so what it's saying here, stanza 22, is that all appearances, whatever you see around, they are your own mind. It is your mind, your own mind reflected, there. And even this mind, even your mind is also dreamlike. And mind itself primordially transcends all mental fabrications. Mental fabrications meaning true existence. Even the mind is lacking true existence. So everything around which appear to you, they lack true existence because they are all created by your mind. Even your mind also lacks true existence because that is also created by another mind. Knowing this and to remain free from apprehending the signs of subject and object. The signs of subject and object here meaning, say, in your dream. In your dream. When you dream of, say for example this girl dreams of meeting with a very handsome boy, oh, there's the handsome boy who's the object. And you are the subject, As subject and object, there's a duality. Then when she comes out of the dream, oh, that boy is just the dream boy. It's just my own thought. So that dissolves. As the object, that dissolves. There's no subject-object duality. The subject-object duality dissolves when you realize that is your own mind, right? So after knowing that everything is your own mind, knowing this and to remain free from apprehending the signs of subject and object is the practice of a bodhisattva. Okay, 23. When you encounter objects that please your mind, like rainbows in the summer season, though they seem beautiful, not to view them as real and to give up attachment to them is the practice of a bodhisattva. Again, this is a very powerful stanza, like a rainbow. Rainbow, what is the name of that young girl? Shivani. The analogy that I was, that we were giving last time, very young girl, Shivani, she might go to, play with the rainbow because she doesn't know that the rainbow was not really there. But we, the elders, we don't go there. We will simply enjoy it from the outside, and we will not think of getting it and then bringing it in your house. We will not think of that because we know that this can't be done. Right? It is not really there. Right? So, when you encounter objects that please your mind, which is so attractive objects, like rainbows in the summer season, though they seem so beautiful, but not to view them as real, as truly existent, and to give up, and thus giving up attachment to them is the practice of a bodhisattva. Again, seeing everything as rainbow-like, everything as dream-like. So this girl meeting with this very handsome boy, coming out of the dream, her attachment to the handsome boy disappears. Because knowing that was her own mind, dream. 24. All suffering is like the death of your child in a dream. To take such delusive appearances is true. How exhausting. Wow, how beautiful. This is so beautiful, Same, the suffering we have. Of course we have suffering. But this suffering, we're not supposed to think that now this is the end. This is not the end. even that suffering, it is because of our failure to see it as dreamlike. We suffer. Right. So all suffering is like the death of your child in a dream. So this girl, young girl, who sees the death of that handsome boy, was suffering terribly. When she comes out of the dream, the suffering disappears, knowing that even the death of that boy is her own dream. So like that, all suffering is like the death of your child in a dream. To take such delusive appearances as true, how exhausting, So as long as the girl is not out of the dream, she is constantly being pained by the separation from the boy, which means it's so exhausting, it's so tiring, it's so painful. The moment she comes out of the dream, that pain disappears. Right. To take such delusive appearances as truly existent, how exhausting. Therefore, whenever you encounter unpleasant circumstances, to see them as deception is the practice of a bodhisattva. Now, standard 23 is when you encounter with the very pleasant things. 24 is when you encounter with unpleasant things. Okay. So again, see, the parallels. The bodhisattvas, they should always maintain a state of equilibrium, a state of, stability under, good situations as well as bad situations. 25. If those who aspire to enlightenment willingly give up their bodies, what need is there to mention external objects? Therefore, with no hope of reward or benefit, to give with generosity is the practice of a bodhisattva. So now this is what Sudhagra, you have been telling me right from the beginning. The bodhisattvas who seek to become a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings, their courage is to the extent of, seeing joy in even giving his own bodies or her own bodies. Then what need is there to mention of the external objects? When you're so joyous to give your body away for others, why not, you have a sense of joy in giving external objects? So saying that, I'm following the bodhisattva path, and then feeling stingy and, being so miser in giving external objects, this is contradiction. Right. So what he's saying is that if those who aspire to enlightenment or becoming Buddha willingly give up their bodies, what need is there to mention external objects? So therefore, with no hope of reward or benefit for oneself, to give with generosity is the practice of a bodhisattva. 26. If lack of discipline prevents you from benefiting yourself, then your wish to benefit others is just a joke. Right? So say, you want to become a professor. I want to become so popular and so famous. I want to become a professor when I become older. Then you always find yourself not studying, which means that you have no discipline. So without discipline, you cannot achieve a noble goal. So then, when if you, with lack of discipline, if you fail to get the noble goal for yourself, then you're wanting to help all others. It's a joke. Then you wish to benefit others is just a joke. Therefore, to observe discipline with no longing for worldly existence is the practice of a bodhisattva. For a bodhisattva who seeks a wealth of virtue, every harm perpetrator is like a precious treasure. Therefore, without feeling irritation to all, to cultivate patience is the practice of a bodhisattva. So the bodhicitta is the true jewel, is the true gem. And this bodhicitta is so beautiful. And this is really like a diamond. And yet, to achieve that, they are positive factors, they are destructive factors. And one of the worst of the destructive factors is anger. So to combat anger, we need to cultivate patience. So the patience is one of the most important positive factor required for someone who is seeking to achieve bodhicitta. Right. So stanza 27 is encouraging us to cultivate patience, to undermine anger. For a bodhisattva who seeks a wealth of virtue, every harm perpetrator is like a precious treasure. So how to practice patience is through seeing the value in those who cause harms on you. If you see value in it, then you will cherish them. With cherishing, then the patience naturally comes in. Anger diminishes, right? Every harm perpetrator is like a precious treasure. Therefore, without feeling irritation to all, to cultivate patience is the practice for bodhisattva. Okay, 28. If Shravakas and Pradika Buddhas who strive for their benefit alone expand effort as if to extinguish a fire burning on their heads, to cultivate joyous effort, the wellspring of positive qualities, is the practice of a bodhisattva. Now look, so stanza 25, 26, 27, 25 down is what is known as the practice of the six perfections. So for the bodhisattvas, for those people who aspire to become a bodhisattva, who aspire to cultivate bodhicitta, their main practice should be on the practice of the six perfections. Stanza 25 is the first perfection, the perfection of generosity. Then 26 is the perfection of discipline. 27 is the perfection of patience. And 28 is the perfection of enthusiasm, or the joyous effort. And 29 is the practice of the samadhi. And 30 is the practice of the wisdom. It says that if Shravakas and Pradika Buddhas, both seek personal liberation. And the distinction between the Shravakas and Pradika Buddhas is that the Pradika Buddhas, they are more intelligent. And their liberation, their nirvana, is more sophisticated, more subtle than the nirvana achieved by the Shravakas. Right? So, the Shravakas and the Pradika Buddhas who strive for their benefit alone, right, expend effort as if to extinguish a fire burning on their heads. The joyous effort, the enthusiasm in their path is so great to the extent that, it is as though like seeing their head is being, on fire. If one's head is, on fire, naturally you will do everything to extinguish the fire. So this is the amount of joyous effort, amount of enthusiasm that Shravakas and Bodhisattvas have. Enthusiasm for one's personal benefit. Then what need is there for those people who seek to become a Buddha, who seek to benefit all sentient beings? Their enthusiasm should be multiplied millions of times as compared to that of the Shravakas and Pradika Buddhas. To cultivate joyous effort, the wellspring of positive qualities, joyous effort for virtuous good qualities is in fact the wellspring of positive qualities. This is what attracts all the good qualities, is the practice of a bodhisattva. Then 29 is meditative concentration. Vipassana, perfectly endowed with shamatha. Vipassana, perfectly endowed with shamatha, completely conquers all afflictions. Knowing this and to cultivate meditative concentration that transcends the four formless states is the practice of a bodhisattva. Right. Now look. Now, the actual means to purify your mind finally is to be in the form of the meditation. And this meditation is twofold. Vipassana and the shamatha. Vipassana, not the popular Vipassana, not the popular Vipassana. Popular Vipassana is more like shamatha, not really the Vipassana. So shamatha is the mental concentration, which is able to maintain focus on a particular object at least for like 4 hours. maintain focus without distraction on a particular object at least for 4 hours with a joyous feeling, technically known as pliancy. Pliancy meaning, say when a small kid is given chocolates and then is put in a small swimming pool, then he would be so happy, he would forget everything else. So like that, when you really achieve this shamatha, right, there is such a joy, such a mental and physical pliancy, physical suppleness, mental and physical suppleness, right? And then you don't find tiredness in sitting focus on one particular object. This is shamatha, right? Now vipassana is higher than that. Vipassana is not just focusing, You achieve the shamatha and not vipassana, right? If you are at that juncture achieving shamatha but not vipassana, then what you can do is that when you are on particular one single object, then you can maintain a focus. As soon as you start, analyzing the object, then the focus scatters. The focus diminishes, right? Which means that you have shamatha but no vipassana. Now vipassana is more advanced level. Not only that you are able to maintain a single pointed focus at least for 4 hours, you are also able to maintain the focus even with analysis. With analysis, you can still maintain the focus. At the same time, there is joyous experience, a feeling of pliancy, feeling of suppleness in your mind and in your body. This is vipassana. So now imagine, say, the teachers who have such a passion in teaching. When you have such a great passion in teaching, and you are a teacher, you are teaching the students. You don't know how the 2-3 hours pass by. It simply flies. You don't know how the time passes, right? Because of this passion. So like that, when you have the actual shamatha and vipassana, when there is passion, there is a joy within. And this joy makes you forget time. So like that, this vipassana and shamatha, when you achieve that, there is such a joy within your body and within your mind. And that keeps you focused on the particular object, forgetting the time span. So that, sitting with a single point of focus for 4 hours, you don't know how 4 hours slip by. Right? So with that, there is such a concentration of your mind. With this concentration, then the wisdom becomes so powerful. For example, say you are trying to cut a poisonous tree. And then with this wisdom like X, the X, if you hit on the same spot, the tree can easily be cut. So like that, with this total focus, with this joy, the total focus is drawn. With this total focus, then the negative emotions can be removed so easily. The ignorance can be removed so easily, right? Okay, 29. Okay. Vipassana, perfectly endowed with shamatha, completely conquers all afflictions, negative emotions, right? Including ignorance. Knowing this and to cultivate meditative concentration, samadhi, that transcends the 4 formless states: desire realm, form realm, and formless realm. Formless realm, again, there are 4, right? So if you're able to transcend the 4 formless, the meditative concentration of the 4 formless realms, then you can achieve nirvana. And so these are I can translate that into English. I don't know the Sanskrit equivalent. In English, number 1 is Nabgataya. Nabgataya means the infinite space concentration. Infinite space concentration. Number 2 is infinite consciousness concentration. Number 3 is nothingness concentration. And I'll explain each of them. Then number 4 is peak of samsara, peak. The peak or the top, the peak of samsara. So these are the 4. Peak of samsara concentration. Okay, so to briefly explain these 4, when you are in the desire realm, then with your samadhi, then slowly, the samadhi becomes quite advanced, whereby, it will give you a potential, power to take birth in the form realm, right? Okay. Then, which means that your attachment towards the desire realm is removed. Then you become eligible to take birth in the form realm. Okay. With further meditation, form means it has physical form, right? Then, say for example, if you are so used, say people who are always putting shoes, wearing shoes, when they go out, with their barefoot, right? With their bare feet, then they can easily sense what is underneath and, feel it. Whereas those people who are always used to that, they can't feel it, right? So likewise, those people who are already in the form realm, with further meditation, they could see the pricking sensation of the physical forms, right? And then for those people who are always wearing shoes, they feel so uncomfortable, walking barefooted, right? So likewise, these people who are with great meditative samadhi, then when their mind becomes more and more refined, right? But that is with what I should say, not necessarily with the understanding of the dreamlike nature. Even without that, they can achieve that level, right? So then their mind becomes so sharp to see, to sense the defects of anything. Not necessarily all, but some. Then at one point they could see the defects of the physical form. Say for example, let's say we all like to have a juice. We are all very thirsty. And we ask someone, we say, or a shopkeeper, to provide us juice in a mug. And the shopkeeper comes up with a very dirty mug, broken here, there, and even the rim is not smooth, some needles, some nails coming out, right? And very greasy here, there, and then putting his very dirty hand in it and giving like this. What would he feel? So those people who are used to that, it's not a problem for them, right? Like himself, it's not a problem. He would drink it so easily. But I'm pretty sure all 4 of us will feel a little bit repulsed, right? Because we could see the distinction between this beautiful mug and that horrible thing. See the distinction, right? So you could easily see the distinction, and then you feel a little bit repulsed by that. But for that person, it's not a problem, right? Like as for us, in the desire realm, the physical form is not a problem. Because our mind is so gross. Whereas those meditators, their mind becomes more and more refined to sense the difference, right? Then the physical form of the desire realm, these physical objects of the desire realm, and the physical form of the form realm, again there is difference in subtlety, right? They will see that in the form realm, the form is much subtler and much smooth and so, purified. Then there, again, when their meditation becomes more refined, they could even see the fault of the physical body itself. Then they will go for the space-like meditation. Space which is empty, The space, there is total fluidity. Whereas the physical form, there's obstruction. So if you want to get out of this, you have to get out of this door, not through the wall. But if it is totally empty, you can get out from everywhere, right? So this is the kind of the freedom, right? So when you reach that level, then you feel the defect in the physical bodies. So what they do is that they do a special meditation to cut themselves away from the physical body. And that meditation is known as the space-like concentration, right? And then when they reach that level, again then when they achieve a very refined level of that, again they see even the space has a problem. Space has something there, but the mind is even freed from the space. And then they become more advanced, move to the consciousness-like concentration. Concentration or meditation, samadhi, where you view everything as consciousness. Right? Okay. Then, again, the next step is that the consciousness, still there is something, Oh, there is consciousness, there is mind here and there. And then you don't want to have anything. There is nothingness. Just your own mind and nothing else. Simply abide in that state. This is the nothingness concentration. Then finally, you even see your own mind. Even this mind is there. This is also, a little bit uneasy. They feel it. It's mind. So they think of eliminating even this mind, subjective mind. But this mind cannot be eliminated. So they try to reduce this mind, smaller, and they reduce it to such a very defined state of mind, as though like when the ordinary people, you see that person, this person is also seems as though like a dead body, with no mind at all. Actually, there's very subtle mind. This is known as the peak of samsara, concentration. 29, to read that again. Vipassana perfectly endowed with shamatha completely conquers all afflictions. Now the Vipassana and shamatha, two of them, the object of Vipassana, the object of shamatha can be anything. Say, some practitioners, some yogis, the object of the Vipassana and shamatha is just a burning flame. Just focusing on the flame. No real flame, mentally think about a flame, and then fully focus there with shamatha and Vipassana. And some, they focus, they visualize themselves in the form of deities. And then some, they focus the same shamatha, some Vipassana, but focus on the dreamlike nature, emptiness nature. Right. So the kind of the Vipassana and shamatha mentioned here is the one focused on the dreamlike nature, emptiness nature. Otherwise, without, as we said earlier, the wisdom focus on emptiness. Other than that, nothing can really, conquer all your negative emotions. Because finally, the negative emotions, they are rooted to ignorance. And ignorance must be eliminated by the light of the wisdom. Vipassana, perfectly endowed with shamatha, completely conquers all afflictions. Knowing this and to cultivate meditative concentration that transcends the four formless states is the practice of a bodhisattva.